Started.
Yeah,
Hi, I'm Rainbow Llamacorn from Damnation Vault, and I'm here with Marissa from Screaming Females for an interview. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. So, when did you first decide that you wanted to start playing music? And what was your very first influence?
I started playing music around the age of 14. And I think the first band that I was really, really into was pretty obviously maybe Nirvana. And my father suggested to me that, or came into my room and told me that it would be really easy to learn any of the Nirvana songs that I liked on guitar because he happened to have a guitar, and if I wanted, he could show me. So he showed me how to play, I think Come As You Are, maybe.
It's all
And um, from that point on, I just kind of got addicted to it. Uh, I can't really tell you why I gravitated towards the guitar. I think a lot of it just had to do with the fact that it was in the house. And
sense.
that was the sole instrument in the house. I was never really particularly interested in playing an instrument before that. I had played a little bit of piano and sang in choir and stuff, but I mostly just focused a lot of my time on drawing and reading comic books and being a really cool, cool, popular girl. um, so, uh, so yeah, I don't know. Once I started playing guitar, I got really into like other punk bands. Like, started listening to the Pixies, and then that kind of turned into listening to a lot of the stuff that was on like Kill Rock Stars and K Records and Chainsaw Records. And once I realized like the possibilities that existed within kind of the microcosm of like DIY punk, that's when I really wanted to be in a band.
It's
So
awesome.
yeah, good stuff.
It's been almost 20 years now, right?
Yes, this is our 18th year of being in a band. And so next year I will have been in this band for over about half my life.
That's crazy. How has
Yeah.
your music evolved from back then to now? What's changed and what hasn't?
Um, I mean, I think a lot has changed in as far as like the fact that I'm more disciplined and focused like songwriter, and I'm not just trying to play notes that or play parts that aren't don't lend themselves to the song. I definitely think a lot more about writing like effective songs, and I think when I was younger I just wanted to kind of like shred my brains out, which I still kind of do want
Yeah.
to do time, but um I think I'm interested in a lot of music that isn't necessarily like guitar driven, but I always have been. So I don't know if that's really changed as much. I don't know. I mean, I've always really been keen on trying new things. Um, but yeah, I think for the most part, I really focus the most on writing effective songs, like catchy songs that people want to play over and over again. I think that's like um my main concern, and maybe wasn't always, but it is now.
Makes sense. What's the main message you try to put across with your music?
I mean, there's so many different lyrical themes and that can exist across, the whatever like hundreds of songs that
Right.
I have put out into the world. Um and I try not to be like pedantic in telling people the way they ought to think or feel about the song. I am much more inclined to let people draw whatever kind of like conclusions that they want to draw from the songs, so that the songs kind of like belong to them. But
Right.
I've found that in the over the course of being in this band that people always want to know what songs are about. They're like, what is that about? And there's a lot of songs that are kind of about that, especially earlier songs when I was just like literally a child and too shy to really, share my feelings on the platform like that. But a lot of them are about nothing. And then a lot of them are about multiple things all squished into one, things that are like unrelated. because songs are kind of like a snapshot of like the life that you're living, and
Right.
every life contains multiple different experiences all at once. So it's very rare that a song is just about one particular thing. I would say almost never. But um I would say, yeah, there's no one assigned message when it comes to the music I put out.
Okay. Um, is it hard to maintain a balance when you write for Screaming Females and then your solo stuff for Noun?
Um, Not really, because now and my solo stuff, I don't really tour on it. I don't really play shows. So I do once in a while for fun. So there's no like deadlines or tours or
Right.
pieces that are stacked ahead of me when it comes to solo stuff. So I kind of just do it for joy whenever I have the time. And it's a really fun way to be able to play with like different musicians that I admire, because Noun doesn't really have like a static lineup. Um, but yeah, I mean, Screaming Females is my priority.
Right.
Uh, that's like a very democratic songwriting process. So like without Mike and Jared's input, those songs would definitely sound radically different, or they wouldn't exist at all.
Yeah.
So
So you guys are going on tour soon. I really like the poster for that.
with
Right. Yeah. My husband
well,
is like super into the turtles, and I've recently been watching turtles with him.
the new movie is really good, especially if you're
Right.
like my area. It's like the New like around New York. It's really very fun. But I am also was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle kid, big time. But yeah, that our artist Yusuke is from New York and is very talented. I love their
It's
paintings.
awesome. Yeah, it's really, really cool. Who do
Yeah.
you look forward to playing with during the tour?
Um. Well, there's a lot of different bands on the tour. Daisy. I'm not sure where Daisy is from because I think their member. It's. I know it's one person is I think the sole songwriter, and then there's a bunch of different people who play with him. Uh. But I've been a fan of the stuff they've been putting out. I think it might have been a COVID like recording project that turned into like a full-fledged band. So I'm excited
Right.
um to see them and play a few shows with them and get to know those guys. But yeah, I mean, I always look forward to going on tour.
Yeah. Do you plan on playing mostly new stuff or a lot of old stuff as well?
We play we try to play if we have a new release out, which we do. I mean, it's new-ish. Is our eighth studio record, Desire Pathway. We try to play a good amount of songs off of that record, but obviously, like, we're not a band that has like hit songs or hit records or anything like that. So I write a different set list every night, and usually when we're in like tour shape, we can play upwards of like 70 songs to choose from. So I'll just kind of like, go with whatever the vibe is for the night and try to construct a set list that's different from whatever the previous night was. Especially if we're playing two places that are close together or two places even in the same city, just to make sure
Right.
that you don't see the same thing over and over again. So
That makes sense. That's awesome. The album artwork for Desire Pathway is really interesting. What was the
thanks.
inspiration behind it? Who drew it or
I
created
do
the artwork?
I do all the album art.
Do you?
Um
That's
yeah,
awesome.
thanks. So ever since I went to art school, I've done a lot of kind of like collaging with just like Xeroxes of my own drawings, and I'll kind of like reduce and enlarge the size of just one drawing and just kind of like play with the image repetition. And so a desire pathway is kind of, you can look it up. I'm always really bad at describing what it is, but it's kind of like a phenomena of like urban infrastructure where uh people will create a path through, say, like a parking lot that hasn't been created by whatever like urban planning company was in charge of like building the sidewalk. Like people will see that the sidewalk tells you to go around this corner, but for some reason in our like collective unconscious, we all choose to cut through that corner and
Yeah.
whatever. And it's like uh I just I love when I like see them. They're fun to find.
Right.
I've always just like found them kind of fascinating that like everybody was on the same page that like no,
Right.
like where they planned out here is not the right way. This is the right way. um and obviously, you know, like there's a ton of metaphors that you could like cram into the concept and the reality of desire pathways existing. And so yeah, I guess the album art is just kind of like an abstraction of like a desire pathway, literally. Like
Yeah.
there's all these like pathways to nowhere or circuitous pathways that are like connected to each other or like obstructed by what kind of looks like plant life. Um, and yeah, I made it just like with Xerox collages over like the course of a month. It was fun.
So I like all your album artwork. It's really
Thank you.
cool. Is it also your drawings that are in some of the music videos?
Yeah, I my drawings are in our newest music video for Morning Dove, and then
That's
uh
really
we
cool.
called Hopeless off an album called Rose Mountain that I animated like directly onto the film. I wouldn't really call it animating. I scribbled onto the film because the film's like, you know, that big. It's very small.
Yeah.
It was like 5,000 frames of images, and I went through each one and kind of tried to doodle on each one, but it was pretty small. So, um, but yeah, I mean, my art is on all our t-shirts and
It's awesome. 'Cause, yeah,
everything.
I like how in this music video for Wild you're playing instruments that are drawn out.
Oh yeah, that one too.
Because
Yeah,
yeah, I thought that was very interesting.
I was sad when I had to throw those out, but
Oh yeah.
crash eventually. I held on to them.
So do you guys direct your own music videos? I know you do a lot of your stuff yourself.
Um, I mean, music videos don't really have, I guess, they don't carry the same kind of weight that they carried when I was young.
Yeah.
Um, so it's always hard to tell like how much time you ought to invest in making a music video. Um, not because you think you're going to make money off of it or anything,
Right.
but just in terms of like time management. So I've always really loved music videos, and I wish that people kind of still cared about them as much as they did when I was a kid. But um but yeah, I mean for a really long time we just did everything, but now that we're older and have met more people and have more resources, we definitely have a lot of friends who work in different like you like camera grips, movie, uh filmmakers, documentary filmmakers. So we just have a lot more access to creative people who are friends who are like happy to help us with making music videos. Um, and I'm really grateful for that because I definitely also as I get older, I'm like, can I not be in it? Yeah,
Right. Makes
just
sense. What was the music video you had the most fun working on?
I I don't know. I mean, they're pretty painless. Like I gotta say, our friend Kate Sweeney, who uh, is a documentarian and has been hanging out with us for like the past 15 years or something. She made the video for Glass House in our most recent video. And she made a music video for a song off my recent solo release. And it's always a pleasure to work with Kate because she knows that I don't know how to position my body or what to do with it. So she just tells me what to do. And I really appreciate that.
I can imagine that helps.
um, but yeah, I don't think we've had any really crazy experiences making music videos. It's usually, we are nerds, so we're hyper organized and usually show up with everything in order. The video that Lance Bangs directed for Hopeless was probably the only one that was like a little bit chaotic because he and I were trespassing at this weird place in New Jersey called Greeks Playland, which is like this abandoned amusement park. And it was very late at night, and I can't express to you how cold it was. Um, and we were there until like 4 in the morning or something like that. And I
Oh,
just remember being extremely, extremely cold. And then I know that it was a deer, but because of all the like creepy clown ephemera and like weird, creepy amusement park stuff, once I heard like a deer romp, like break on a branch or something, I was like, I gotta get out of here. I can't be here anymore.
right. Yeah, that would have freaked me out.
Yeah, it freaked
Afraid
me
of the
out.
dark, so
It freaked me out. So I'm kind of like, yeah, I think that means that we're done.
sounds interesting. Castle Talk is the first album I ever heard from you guys. Like my husband was the one that introduced me to your guys' music because he really loved the song A New Kid, which I also really like that song. Like I love the riff in that song. Like what was the inspiration for the riff if you had one?
That song used to be in halftime. I remember. So it was like the riff was because like da na 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 na, which I think we were like, God, it sounds like Rage Against the Machine. That's cool. And then we played it at a show. We were playing like some college show. I don't remember where. I think in like North Carolina maybe. And our roadie, our friend Perry, was we played it for the first time, and he was like, "That song sounds exactly like Rage Against the Machine." And we were like, "Okay, we have to do something about that because if if the first time we play it, someone's first impression is that it's like derivative of something else, then we ought to change it." So we just kind of like sped it up. Um, and I don't know. I mean, with Screaming Females, the writing process is pretty organic. We just kind of like fuss with stuff until we end up with a song, and it takes a while, but
Yeah.
thank
Well, I really like your music. It's
you.
awesome. I'm glad he showed me you guys. Um, well, do you have any influences that might surprise people, like people might not know of it, old or new influences?
Um, I mean, a lot of my favorite bands are like one of my favorite bands in the whole world is a band called Low from Duluth, Minnesota. They kind of like coined, I guess, what you would call slowcore music, and it is guitar driven music, and occasionally I would say it's even like rock and roll music, but mostly it's very sad, somber, slow kind of music. I'm trying to think of other things that people might not. I think that everyone, especially since the advent of streaming, people just tend to have more eclectic taste
Right.
than we did when we were growing up. So I don't necessarily think any of these things would be particularly surprising to anyone. As a uh, I'm kind of just like a record store like dork. Like I just celebrate music, but I don't think there's anything super weird that I like. Maybe the probably the weirdest thing that you might not expect me to like is that I really like the first Hatebreed LP.
I don't know if I've ever listened to that, but yeah.
Uh, oh, you should try it.
Right.
It's got,
Well, yeah, I'm always into checking out new music. I'm not
yeah,
picky with my
it's
music.
not. Oh, it's for everything.
Um, so mental health is a very important thing for us here at Damnation Vault. Like, how does music help you with your mental health? And when music doesn't help, what does?
um, well, music has always been important to me. Obviously, when you're growing up, I feel like when you're a teenager is oftentimes where you'll kind of like generate your taste in music and use it as a coping tool.
Right.
Because almost everybody goes through a hard time when they're a teenager, unless you're a real weirdo.
Right.
And so yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think I just listen, I it was a form of escapism. My favorite time of day when I was in high school was when I got to get on the school bus and put on my headphones, and then I could just occupy that world,
Right.
which
Just
was,
drown everything else out.
yeah, and I just really got lost in it. And um you know, I still do, but it's like in a different way. Like now I get like lost in recording, or lost in kind of like problem solving with a song, or kind of lost in building a song with Mike and Jared at band practice. So um and I still do kind of, you know, I still listen to music um to to console myself, or find a place to escape to. But it's the feeling is different than the feeling was when I was 16, which
Yeah.
it um and when music's not really like working out for me, I'll often draw. I mean, I've been drawing and painting for way longer than I've been making music, and
Right.
kind of always been my fallback thing,
That
because
was
you can bring a sketch pad anywhere.
right. I love to draw and paint as well.
Yes, even when, you know, as long as I can remember, I always was just carrying around a sketch pad, and to this day, I do the same thing. I'm sitting, what my friend's mixing something, I'm just sitting next to him drawing. I have nothing to do with what he's mixing, but hanging
Right.
out and doodling. So
Yeah, it just reminds me of me. I used to draw all the time. My hand gets numb sometimes now, so I don't always do it anymore, but
yeah, yeah, get a drafting table, because then it's good. It
right.
helps a lot. Yeah, you
That
gotta
would be
keep
a
it up,
good idea. Right.
go for it. But yeah, I mean, the arts, I've always used the arts as a coping mechanism. If there are thoughts or feelings that kind of like defy language, or I can't really explain them to other people, or talking to other people doesn't help, I use the arts as like a therapeutic mechanism. That's not to say that it always works. Sometimes you just
Right.
gotta
Right. Yeah, I find painting very calming most of the time, but yeah.
yeah, you can work.
Um, I I just gotta ask, do you like Limp Bizkit? They're my favorite band.
Biscuit big time as a child. I had, you know, I turned like 17 in 2000, I think. No, I was younger than that. Whatever. It doesn't matter. I was coming of age in the thousands. So Limp Bizkit was like the most popular thing on the planet.
Right.
So I had inflatable furniture. I had Significant Other on CD. I was playing Crash Bandicoot, drinking like 20 Sprites a day. I did not drink water. Like,
Right. I didn't drink water as a kid either.
yeah, living the life. Like, I'll never be that cool ever again. But yes, I know every single song off Significant Other. I haven't heard it in a long time. I don't know if it holds up, but I imagine that it does.
Well, yeah, I still really enjoy them, so
That's sick.
I just had to ask.
Hell
Um,
yeah.
I don't really have anything else.
Cool. That was the best last question ever.
Thank you. I really enjoyed chatting with you.
Yeah,
It's
it was a
really nice
pleasure.
to meet you.
Yeah, yeah. Send me you know, email me whatever you got, and I'll put it up on our Instagrams and all
Okay.
that. All right, sweetie.
Yeah,
You have a good, all right?
you too.
All right.
Bye.
Cheers.